Maddie behind the camera. Today we're two of the keepers here at Maru Koala Park. Now we're actually located down in Grantford near Phillip Island, Victoria. But today we will be feeding our dingoes kangaroo that we order in especially for them. It is ethically sourced, so don't be alarmed. But with that being said, we're going to head into our first enclosure to meet Banjo and Ella. Okay, so on my left here we do have Banjo. Banjo here is a bit of a goofball. He's also our alpha. And we have Ella nice and close to the camera. She is a very sweet girl. She's also, I reckon she's probably one of our most clicked on dingoes. Get down, sweetie, good girl. She is very switched on. She is constantly trying to outsmart all of us. You ready for your food? Who's going to take the first one? It's a big one, isn't it? There we go. Here you go, Ella. Now, with our dingoes, they are a carnivorous species. However, they are also known as opportunistic eaters. So an easy meal is essentially a good meal. They've taken it away, so we'll hopefully be able to get a bit closer to them. So as I was saying, they are opportunistic eaters, so an easy meal is a good meal. They're not overly fussy. However, here at Maru, our dingoes are a little bit sometimes, especially one of our boys, which we'll be meeting very shortly. But out in the wild, they will often feed on kangaroos, wallabies, possums, rabbits, things like that. But they will often go for the easiest meal possible, which is roadkill. So they're actually really good for our ecosystem. So that being said, with them helping get rid of our roadkill, they are also our natural cleaners, and they also help monitor our kangaroo and wallaby population as well. We might see if we can get a bit closer to Ella as well, so that way you guys can have a bit more of a look at both of our dingoes and see a bit of a difference between the two. Hi, sweetie. Now, Ella here, as you can see, she has quite a white face as well, which is one of the ways that we do distinguish between them. They do have a few different characteristics as well. Banjo's come to join her, however, Ella doesn't want to risk her food being taken away from Banjo here. He is a bit greedy. Whereas Banjo here, he has quite a wide, fluffy face as well. As you can see with these guys, they do look a bit like dogs, however, they are actually more closely related to jackals, coyotes and wolves. They are considered the Australian wolf. But with that being said, there are a few differences between these guys and our dogs at home. One of them is the way that they communicate. Unfortunately, we haven't heard them howling today, so they're not overly excited. They've gotten that all out of their system. But by howling, it travels a lot further a distance and it gives a lot more information compared to those short, sharp barks. But also another thing with howling is that just like how we have our own unique voices, our dingoes have their own unique howls as well. So we can actually tell which dingo is which just by their howl.
So Mel, what sort of a howl do the girls have?
I'm going to say that they have a bit more of a high pitch. I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit annoying, but it is beautiful to hear as well at the same time. So it's very high pitched compared to the boys, which is a little bit lower as well. Molly on the other side, she's definitely got the highest pitch out of them all, to be honest.
So what are some of the other differences between our dingoes and our dogs at home?
Another difference is that these guys don't actually have a base scent. So with these guys, they don't actually have a smell. So with our dogs at home, when you're giving them a nice big cuddle, often you'll walk away smelling a bit like dog. There's no other way to describe that smell. But with that being said, these guys, that actually benefits them out in the wild because without having that smell, it allows them to get a lot closer to their prey.
So Mel, just for the people that are joining us now, they're a bit late on the start, where did we get this meat from and what are we feeding today?
So we're feeding kangaroo that we get ordered in especially for them. It is all ethically sourced for them, so it's nice and safe.
Now why would we feed them kangaroo? What else do they get fed?
So they get a range of different meats. Here at Maru, we do source them a range of kangaroo, chicken, mince, things like that. Out in the wild, they will feed on kangaroos, wallabies, possums, rabbits, anything that they can get their hands on really. They're opportunistic eaters, so the easiest meal is the best meal for them.
Mel, we have a question from one of our watchers. They would like to know, do they love having belly rubs?
They do sometimes, however, they get very excited. They are more so smoochy dingoes, to be honest. They do love a good kiss. I reckon we'll get ready to head over to the other side because I can see Flynn there getting ready for his food. He's getting very excited for it. Thank you. Okay, so this here is Flynn. Hop down, buddy. So Flynn here, I'm not going to lie, I do play favourites and he's definitely one of them, to be honest. He is a very sweet dingo. Once you've earned his trust, he is a very loving dingo and he's very smart. Whereas Molly here is definitely a very, very sweet dingo, but she's also that typical little sister, to be honest. She is constantly trying to get Flynn here in trouble.
Now, Mel, we've got a couple of questions. The first one is, how long is their lifespan?
So out in the wild, they can live anywhere from 6 up to 15 years in human care as well. So usually around the 15-year mark.
Next question is, can you have them as a pet?
So you can have them as a pet in certain states. You do, however, need a license for it. With these guys, I do highly recommend not getting them as a pet though, as they are very, very needy animals. You do need a lot of care put into it. So you need special fencing, the license, of course. There is a lot of requirements, and they're not like the typical dog at home. We like to explain it a bit more like a cat in a dingo's body. So with our dogs at home, they're all loving and wanting attention, where yes, these guys may seem like they love us, which we're sure they do to a certain extent at least. However, they are very food motivated. They are very concerned about what's in it for them, much like a cat is.
Now, Mel, you might have explained it just before, but we've had a couple of questions on how do they communicate? Do they bark like dogs?
So they can bark. It is considered juvenile behaviour though, so they'll only really do it as puppies. They actually more so communicate by howling. They've gone around the back, so we're just going to follow them around. But by howling, it travels a lot further distance and gives a lot more information as well. With our dingoes here as well, there isn't a different species. We have the alpine dingo. There is only one species. It just depends where they're found as of how they've adapted. So with these guys, as they're found in a bit colder regions, during winter they have nice thick double coats and a bit more body fat to keep nice and warm. Whereas also in the warmer areas such as the desert dingoes and the tropical dingoes, they're a bit leaner and they have a little bit less fur as well.
So Mel, with the dingoes coming from different areas, are they all the same colour, or what sort of colours do our dingoes come in?
So our dingoes can range between different colours, such as it's this lovely sort of sandy tan type colour. Also, more on the whiter side, there's also the tricoloured sort of colour as well, which is sort of like the black and tan. And they also can come in a red colour as well.
Do they shed their fur coming into summer?
They can, yes, especially these guys. They've lost that winter coat, so it's come in nicely. With that double coat especially, they don't really need it during these seasons.
We've got another question coming in. They're curious to know what type of exercise and enrichment routines our dingoes have.
So we like to try and mix up our enrichment program for them as much as possible. So sometimes it can be anything to do with a scatter feed, bungees, to sort of signify pulling at the meat and things like that, and trying to scavenge for it. Then there's also smelling enrichment as well that we like to use, so that way they can try and get the different smells around the enclosure. And they also like to roll their bodies in it as well, because without having that base colour that base scent that I told you about before, they actually can grab that smell and pretty much have it all over their body, so that way they can bring it to their pack as an information source as well. We do also take these guys for walks as well, just to get that little bit of exercise. They get those different smells around the park as well, and they get very excited as well. So we're very lucky. Tomorrow we actually get to open up And hopefully we'll be able to bring out our dingoes a couple days every now and again to meet some guests too.
We've got another couple of questions. So we've had someone say they're very similar to a dog. So do you just want to quickly give us those key points again, how they're different and what they're more closely related to?
So they are more closely related to wolves, jackals and coyotes. They're sort of like Australia's wolf, I guess you could say. But a few key differences is the way they communicate. So the howling, their base scent, so they don't have that dog smell like our dogs do at home. And as I said, they're a bit more independent compared to our dogs at home as well.
How many babies can our dingoes have?
They can usually have for around 4 in a litter.
And we've also got another question. What about the wagging of tails? Does that mean they're happy like our dogs at home?
Yes, it does. So these guys are quite happy with their roo, but I think we might get ready to... We've got more questions? Cool.
One more question. So we've had someone ask, what percentage are these guys dingo?
They're 100%. They're purebreds. We got them from a breeder up in northern Victoria.
And do they eat the fur and bones from the meat?
Yes, a lot of the time they do. However, sometimes we do find holes hiding around in the enclosure that they've buried their roo leftovers in. Okay, so since we don't have any other questions, we might get ready to wrap it up. We have, as I said, we're very likely to be opening up tomorrow, so hopefully we'll see some friendly faces coming in. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day or night, depending on where you are.
What are we going to see next week, Mel?
And next week, make sure you tune in. We will be featuring our reptiles, so get very excited for that.
And when are we going to be opening?
So we open tomorrow at 10 o'clock.